Hello everybody, thank you so much for being here. It's been a very long time since I've said that. I know it's been a long time since I've uploaded any videos. I'm sorry about that, but I am super excited to get back into it. And I do want to let you know going forward, I plan on adding a lot more story times to my videos. Not just, or like my personal stories, but more like, you know, just stories that I like paranormal, mysteries, some true crime. I'm not sure how deep into the true crime I want to go, but like some stuff I want to do. But other than that, I just want to let you guys know that I'm super excited to get back into filming and doing fun makeup with you guys and more. But yeah, so if you're new here, my name is Shyla and this is La La Land. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and click that subscribe button. If you like story times and you want to know if you want more like this, make sure you click that like button so I know to keep doing this, and make sure you comment down below, you know, like mysteries, creepy stuff that you want me to look into that that we can talk about here. I'm super interested. I'm super excited to have you guys hang out with me while I play with my makeup and tell you this story while I go from this to this. Using all drugstore makeup. I will list all of the products that I use in today's video down below. But yeah, thanks guys, and let's go ahead and just get right into this because I am super stoked to creep you guys out. Okay, so as you can tell by the title, we are going to be talking about black-eyed children or black-eyed kids. And that's not kids with black eyes, it's black-eyed children or black-eyed kids. So we'll get into it. So, okay, I'm not exactly sure exactly what they are. I don't think they're like human. Okay, so they range in age from age 6 to 16 years old. And they're usually in groups of 2 to 5. Sometimes they're just one person, one alone, but usually they're at least up to 5. They could be more, I don't know, but no more that is very common. And they're, you know, like sometimes people have seen them panhandling. Usually they're seen at night, where it's like kind of too late at night for children their age to be out. Usually they're kind of dressed like not for the age or the time. It's kind of old-fashioned, or just like in kind of like frumpy clothes that like don't seem to fit them right. When they talk, they seem like they're very like coached or like scripted, almost like someone's like had sat them down and been like, okay, so if someone says this to you, you say this, or you need to approach someone in this situation and say this and this and this. Like, it's very like thought out or like planned. It seems not so much a casual conversation or like an easygoing conversation. And usually in their presence, people always report like your internal alarms going off, like your fight or flight mechanism. And it's like strange because adults are feeling that way towards a child when usually, I'm not even doing makeup, when usually you should be wanting to help a child. So that's just kind of what a lot of people report. But so the first story of it on the internet, apparently there are stories that go back to like the 1920s, and you can see a lot of stories, of course, on like Reddit, and just look them up on the internet. But they do say once you look into them and you become more aware of them, they become aware of you. That's kind of the shtick, I guess. So I've listened to like a bunch of podcasts, I've read a bunch of stories about it, and a lot of times when I went to go listen to the podcast, like the people doing the podcast were saying like, this is the second time I've recorded this because my stuff got messed up, or like every time I go to do my research, everything I've saved got lost. So I've had to research this several times, and like everything I've done on it has kind of gotten messed up. And so like that's just kind of a thing that goes along with it, and I feel like I can relate. But I'll get to that little bit later. So let me arrange to my eyebrows. Yeah, my eyebrows are tattooed, but I do like to still fill them in because it's part of my process and part of my flow. And it's been a while since I've done my makeup. So I was going to wear like black contacts for this, but I can't get them in my eyes, so there goes that. But okay, so the first account of this on the internet that, you know, like the first story that I guess was recorded on the internet was by a reporter by the name of Brian Bethel. And so in 1986 in Abilene, Texas, he went to go pay his cell phone bill. Or no, I'm sorry. No, he did not. He went to go pay his internet bill, because back then what you had to do to pay your bill, because you couldn't pay for your internet on the internet, you had to drive down to the place and write them a check, and then you could, that's how you pay your bill. And it was a little late at night. I guess it was like, we'll say it's 9 o'clock at night, okay? So the place is obviously closed, so he is going to just drop it in the little drop box. And it was like a kind of like a strip mall, you know, like where it's like several buildings are like connected, or like several businesses are connected in the same parking lot. And it was in the same parking lot as like a movie theater. And Mortal Kombat just came out, and he was actually using the light from, like, you know, the thing that says like Mortal Kombat this time, rated PG, blah 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 blah, PG-13, whatever it is. He was using the light from that to write the check for his internet bill, and out of nowhere he gets like a knock on the car window, and it's two kids, and like one's like 14, one's like 9, and they're always in, like, one's older, one's younger. And so he knocks on the window, and he like the kids are like, I want to say they're wearing hoodies, and the hoods are kind of pulled down, so you can't really, like, the shadow of like the light above is like making a shadow across their face. You can't really see their faces too much, but you could see like one has freckles, curly hair. And so anyways, the older kid he asked him to roll down his window. So he like, what am I doing? He slightly, I haven't done my makeup in so long, I'm like way off, and I'm not even paying attention to what I'm doing. What do we do first? Okay, so he kind of rolls down the window, and he's like, can I help you? And the kid's like, hey, mister, we forgot our money to go see the movie at our mom's house. Can you take us home, and we'll get our money and we'll come back? And then he's like, this is so weird. How did you get all the way to, like, you came all the way to the movie theater and didn't have your money? Like, okay, some kids are kind of funny like that, I guess. So he was just like, well, what movie were you planning on seeing? Mortal Kombat, of course. Okay. Well, Mortal Kombat, the last showing started at 8 o'clock. It's now 9 o'clock. By the time I get you to your house to get your money and get back here, the movie's going to be over. Oh, come on, mister. It's not going to take that long. And then, like, he noticed that the little kid was, like, kind of starting to look nervous, and, like, kept looking at the bigger kid or the older kid. And he, it's almost like, and a lot of people do say the same thing about this part where they, like, look at each other, and then it's almost like they can communicate by looking. Like, I know women, we can, like, we get it, but it's, I don't know, it's kind of different. And so he's just like, okay, odd. And he's like, well, come on, mister, it's not going to take that long. Just invite us in your car. We can't get in unless you invite us in your car. And then he's like feeling those alarms going off inside, like, get out of here, you know? But at the same time, he's feeling like, he looks down and catches his hand going towards the handle to open the door to let them in. And he had to, like, stop, like, physically stop himself, because subconsciously he was just going to do it. And he just said that it was almost like he was tranced to do it. I don't know, like in a trance of some sort, and had to like, whoa, stop himself. And that's what a lot of people say. It's the same thing, and it's super creepy. But he stopped himself, and he told him, he was like telling him like, no, I don't think I can let you in. And then he's like, well, come on, mister, we're just a couple of kids. It's not like we have a gun. Like, that's supposed to make him feel at ease somehow. I don't get it. And so that made him like super nervous. Like, okay, you say you don't have a gun and you're the one that brought up a gun, like you have a gun. That's what people normally think, normal people think, right? And then that just kind of freaked him out. So he was like making an excuse to like get out of there, and he put his car in reverse. And then the older kid just started, all of a sudden he seemed mad, and he like started pounding on the window. Like, you have to let us in. You need to invite us in, or we can't get in unless you invite us, or something like that. So the car's in reverse. The kid's getting kind of upset, like, you have to invite us in. And then he was telling him no. And then at that point is when he saw the kid's eyes, and he described their eyes as soulless orbs, two great swaths of starless night. Remember, he's a writer, so that's beautiful, but like, it's not like where we have white and I have blue and then the black pupil. It's legit black to black. Like, there's no white. There's like, it's all black. A lot of people have even said it's more like their eyes just like an empty black pit, not necessarily like even an eyeball. Ugh, diatlov pass. Too soon. So he, like, when he saw that, he just took off. But he noticed when he looked in the rearview mirror, and he did not want to look in the rearview mirror, but he just felt like he had to look in the rearview mirror. And when he looked in the rearview mirror, seconds later, after reversing away from these kids, they're gone. Just completely disappeared. And he says that like every time he thinks about them, he gets that same like sick feeling. Like, he hates the feeling that he gets. And he wasn't going to write this story online, but he had mentioned it to someone because it bothered him. Like, why was I so scared of children? Like, what would it be about these children that made me react or feel that way, that I just was so unsafe? Like, I was so terrified. I was scared of them, like terrified of children, and I'm a grown man. And so that's the first account of it. And but again, he said he didn't really want to write about it or like tell people about it, but once he did, and people were like, oh, I've had a situation like that too, this is what happened to me. And so let's say I think it was about 7 or 8 months later, a man named John was in Seattle on a business trip. And so all day he's been in meetings and meetings. Okay, so John has been in meetings all day long, and it's like 11 o'clock at night. He gets out of the meetings, and his car is in a parking garage on like the top floor. And this is like the weirdest color of freaking foundation. I don't know why it doesn't work for me. So he's in his car, just kind of like thinking about the day, getting ready to go. And then he gets a knock on the window, and it's Doug from work. And he's just like, okay, unloads his window. And Doug's like, hey, there's some kids by my car. I don't, like, can you help me? Like, I'm nervous about these kids by my car. So he's just like, yeah, I can help you with these kids. So I guess he thought it was kind of weird that like someone would be nervous about kids, but you know, whatever. I don't know, kids are mean. They can say mean things. Kids are crazy. So he drives him over to his car, and there's 3 kids over by the car. 1 girl, 2 boys from like ages like 11 to like 14 in age. And the girl's like, he said like, just very acting like, you know, like the bad kid, like very bored, but smoking a cigarette. And just like, it just seemed kind of odd. Like kind of very like acting, he said. So like that was strange, but okay, whatever. And then the little boy says something like, we just need a ride. It's awfully scary out here at night. And then the older kid, or the older boy, looked at Doug and said, you said you'd help us out. And at that point, like, John's starting to feel, you know, like, again, internal freaking alarms going off. Like, this is weird. Like, that fight or flight thing is going off, and it's just a few kids. Like, what's going on? Why am I feeling this way? So as he's trying to figure that out, Doug, who has been scared of the kids to begin with and had to go and ask another grown man to help with these kids, starts getting out of the car. And then at that point, the boy that was like irritated with Doug, the older boy, started getting mad. He's like, you have to invite us in. You have to invite us in. And at that point, he noticed that Doug's trying to get out of the car. And then at the same time, he's noticing Doug's getting out of the car. He sees the kid all of a sudden looks much older to him, he said. But then he saw like the black eyes, and it like really freaked him out. So then he grabs Doug, pulls him back in the car, and then takes off. And he says he's going around these corners, around this parking garage, like 35 miles an hour. And these kids are chasing him, but keeping up with him. Okay. And then he said he like lost the kids, and all of a sudden he's at the end of it, and the kid beat him there. How he beat him there, he said he has no idea, but he had a swerve and barely missed the kid, and then he looked in the rearview mirror and the kid was gone. So he said he waited about 10 minutes, and then he took Doug back to his car, and they were gone. And he was, as they were like sitting there waiting for the light, he was thinking like, wow, that was really weird. Like trying to figure out what just happened. What was going on? Why were those kids making me feel that way? Like they're just a bunch of punk kids. Like what the hell? And he said out of nowhere, so he said he was like 45 feet behind Doug at the light, and the light went yellow and Doug went through it, and a truck went through the light and instantly killed Doug in an accident. And as John is in shock, telling the police officers what happened, what's going on, he looks over, and across the street are those kids. And he just said like he knew they were like, somehow, he didn't know how, but he said somehow like they had something to do with it, or somehow they had caused it, or what. Really weird. So then that was Seattle. And so that was like 7 or 8 months after John, and that was 1996. In 2015, in January, in Vermont. So and this was not, and it's like farm country, where I don't know if all of Vermont's like that, I've never been there, but where these people's houses were like, you could hear, like, you know, it's like, it's very open space. And she said there was a blizzard all night, and it's late at night, and all of a sudden she gets a knock on her door. I don't know this woman's name. I forget it. I'm so sorry. I'll put it up here on the screen. But anyway, she hears a knock at the door. It's really late at night, so she's like, oh my gosh, I wonder if someone had an accident. So she like looks through the window, and there's just footprints, like just foot tracks, like leading to their door. And she opens the door, and it's a little girl and a little boy. And she said instantly she felt like those alarms going off, like fight or flight. But she's a grandmother, and she doesn't understand like why am I not like instantly like scooping these children up in this blizzard? And she said like they were dressed very oddly. So she thought maybe these children are from the Amish community. And that was like what she told herself to excuse like the odd clothing that they were wearing, because it's kind of old fashioned for the times. And they were barefoot. And so she's asking them like, where are your parents? What's going on? Why are you out here? And they said, can we come in? It's very cold. And she's kind of like hesitating. And then her husband comes downstairs and opens the door, and she's like, yeah, there's these kids, and I'm asking them where their parents are. And he's like, oh my goodness, we'll come inside. We'll get you some hot chocolate. So he just like instantly let the kids in. And as they come in, they have 4 cats, and normally their cats are like friendly, and they have to like keep them from running up or out the doors usually. But this time the cats, 3 of the cats were hiding. They just instantly hid. And one of the cats just kept hissing and like did not like the kids at all. And that's not like the normal behavior for their cats. So she was thinking that's like really odd. And while she was going to get them some hot chocolate, all of a sudden her husband's nose just starts gushing. And she said that in the 40 some odd years that they've been married, she had never once seen her husband's nose bleed. And his nose just started gushing blood. So she was like, oh my gosh, trying to help her husband. And then all of a sudden the power goes out on top of everything. The kids wanted to use the restroom. So she was showing them to the restroom as she's getting her husband a towel for his nose, and then the power goes out. And as she's helping with his nosebleed, because it's just gushing blood, she noticed that the kids are at the end of the hallway and they're just standing there staring, like really creepy. And then at that point is when she noticed their eyes. Wait, you know what? I'm sorry. I want to say she noticed their eyes. They're at the end of the hallway. She noticed their eyes, and that is when the power went out. And then they start walking towards the door and say, our parents are here. And they go out, and they just leave the door open like a bunch of brats, and they walk down to the end of the driveway. And at the end of the driveway, there's a sedan, like a dark sedan with 2 men in suits that get in the car with the kids and just drive off. And so she's thinking, that is so weird. What just happened? And what's going on with her husband? Well, I want to say 6 months later, her husband, he had kept having like nosebleeds. She was having chronic headaches. 3 of their cats ran away. And so that was really strange. Like their cats, they love their cats. Their cats, they had them their whole lives. And they had never had a problem with them running away. I guess they had a problem with maybe them running up to the door and stuff like that. But not running away. But all of a sudden now their cats are missing. And she said that one day she came home, and the cat that had been hissing and like kind of like hating the kids, she came home and that cat was in a puddle of its own blood, dead. And when she took to the vet to figure out like, what happened to my cat, apparently the cat was full of cancerous tumors, and that's how the cat died. But it's almost like, for it to be that bad, that cat would have had to have been really sick, but she said that the cat was not sick. So that's really strange. And then within 6 months, her husband that had the nosebleed kept having nosebleeds. And so he went to the doctor, and they actually diagnosed him with a very like stage 4 skin cancer. And it's like a rare type. Like you would have to be exposed to much like a lot of amounts of radiation to get that type of skin cancer. And I guess he passed away. So that's super sad. And then she herself says that she is in the worst condition of her entire life. And she has chronic headaches, depression. She said that every time she thinks about those children, she gets just sick to her stomach. It's really stressful. And so like, I'm telling you her story because there was, like the two people that got away because they didn't let the kids in, right? So I was looking into like what happens if you do let them in. Like, okay, because there's stories where they come to your door in the middle of the night and like, okay, so there's a story where in the middle of the night, this woman heard knocking and it was like knock, 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 like really consistent knocking, not like knock, 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 or even like the, or like whatever people do, sorry, or whatever people do, you know, like not a normal knock. It was like knock, 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 like someone that doesn't know how to freaking knock. So that's what woke her up. And like she said her dog that was a puppy that normally would run to the door was hiding and was like would not go to the door, wouldn't go near it. So she's like, okay, that's really weird because this dog's always trying to go to the door. So she just went like downstairs very quietly and she didn't even open her door and she just kind of like peeked out there and she could see two kids on her porch, a boy and a girl. And so she didn't say anything to them. She didn't do anything to make them aware that she was there. And the dog had stayed upstairs, so it's not like it was making noises by the door. And all of a sudden, the girl starts talking through the door. Can you let us in? It's very late. We need to call our mother. So she didn't say anything. Knock, knock, knock. I know you're there. I can hear you. Can you let us in? It's very late. It's cold out here. This won't take long. We need to call our mother. We need you to invite us in. Knock, 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 like aggressive knocking. So she didn't say anything. She didn't answer and she didn't respond, but she still had those like fight or flight feelings, like get away from them. And then she said that she absolutely did not want to open that door, but she felt her hand going towards the door to unlock it and let them in. And she had to like physically stop herself from doing it because subconsciously she was just going to open the door and let these creepers in. Sorry, I ran out of memory. So she said she felt like, or like she knew there was no way that she wanted to let these kids into her house, right? It was not going to happen. So, but she did feel her hand go towards the door and she had to, again, physically stop herself from opening the door. And that's like a common thing that everybody is saying. But she said she looked through the peephole and that's when she saw that there was like, and she was one of the ones that said it was more like an empty pit in their eyes, but they were not only knocking on the door, they went to like the window and were knocking and they wanted to come in, but they kept saying things like, you have to invite us in. We can't come in without your permission. But again, a lot of people report that they're like not with the time, like they say very odd things like what? Like one story people talked about, like the kid said like, we need to come in and use your telegraph. And the guy's like, we don't have one of those. Like, who has a telegraph anymore? Another guy said that like he had one that was like a black-eyed kid that was just alone. People call him Becks. So a Beck showed up at his door and it was just a boy and he was just holding an apple kind of like oddly and asked him like, can I please come in? It's like 6 o'clock in the morning, still dark outside, he said, for the time of year. And him and his wife were just getting ready for work. And this, all of a sudden he has a strange kid knocking on his door. And the kid's like, I need to come in. Can I get your permission to come in your house? Or like something to the effect like, I need your permission to come in. You've got to let me in, invite me into your house type of thing. And the guy's like, no, I'm not going to let you into my house. He's like, well, at least give me some ketchup for my apple. Like no one puts ketchup on their apples. If they do, they're weird. But that's just not like a common thing. And you know, a normal kid would know that. That's what I'm saying. Like the Becks seem to not get what's normal and what's not and what's odd and what's not. Like, let us in. It's not like we have a gun. There was another report, someone said that they were saying like, this won't take long, and it was like very ominous and just like really, really creepy. So that's just what they do. And they need your permission to come inside, stuff like that. So people like want to try to figure out like, what are they? So there's, of course, theories, and I do want to go over those with you. Of course, like one of the biggest ones is that they're ghosts, but they're like solid. So like they can explain it to you in Harry Potter, but usually ghosts or like entities like that like aren't something that you can like physically see, and like they can knock and like, you know, like try to get into your car or come into your house and stuff like that. Like so I don't think it's a ghost thing. A lot of people think that it's more of like a tulpa, which I don't know the exact definition, but from my understanding, a tulpa is like something that only exists because you believe it exists, and because you believe it exists, that causes it to exist, type of thing. Kind of like Slender Man, which we're going to talk about him at one point. That's a whole situation that is just freaking, I don't even like the guy. But kind of like that, like, you know, that he definitely was internet made up. He was like from an internet contest or whatever, but so many people started to believe that he existed that like it was like people like started to like honestly believe it. And a lot of people just think like, oh, that's what it is with black-eyed kids. But there's not only reports of them in the United States, a lot of them in Texas, but there's reports of them in like the United Kingdom, in the UK. A woman, I guess it was like 30 years ago, was walking through a forest, and it's called Staffordshire or something beautiful like that I'm probably not saying correctly, but it's the Cannock Chase. I'll put the name, of course, on the screen so you guys can see the real thing. But there's like a whole story about her. There's like news reports about the black-eyed child of the Cannock Chase, and it's a girl, a little girl around 10 years old, and a woman and her daughter were walking through, I guess, like a foresty type of thing, and they all of a sudden heard like a child screaming. And so she was really worried, and she and her daughter started looking for the child, and all of a sudden they come, what is going on? There we go. They come across a little girl that has her hands over her eyes. She says, the lady described it as like, as if she was waiting for like a birthday surprise, but like her hands were over her eyes. And she asked her like, oh, are you the one that screamed? Are you okay? And then the little girl dropped her hands to the side of her body, and that's when the woman noticed that the little girl had, you know, like the black eyes, like the black soulless pit eyes that everybody describes. And so she like jumped back and grabbed her daughter, and when she turned around to look at the girl again, she was gone. Just completely disappeared. And that is what like a lot of people report, you know, like they're just gone, like way too fast for like what should be normal. A lot of people say like by the time, like how they're really fast, almost like they almost glide rather than walk, like, you know how Doug and John were going through the parking lot or the parking garage going like 35 miles an hour around some corners, and the kids were like keeping up with them. How does that happen? So one of the other theories is, of course, that they're vampires because they're creepy fast. And, you know, people do describe their skin as being slight, like super pale, almost to the point of where it's like a grayish blue, and kind of waxy. It doesn't seem like a normal skin texture. It seems kind of waxy. And a lot of people do say that same thing about the Men in Black. And that's a whole situation that we need to talk about as well. I kind of feel like, if you know the theory of the Men in Black, like not Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones, it's there's like a whole situation, but a lot of people think that they are connected to the Men in Black and the Black-Eyed Children. I don't know. I'm not sure we can talk about that. I would have to look into that a little bit more, but I have heard that theory a few times when I was looking into the Black-Eyed Children. So, a lot of people say that they think that the Black-Eyed Children are vampires because they're so fast and they have to always ask for permission to come in. And that's like the main thing with vampires is like, oh, I need your permission to enter or something like that, and garlic and all that stuff. But no one mentions anything about garlic with the Black-Eyed Kids, but they need permission to enter, stuff like that. I don't think, like, I don't know. I don't really believe in vampires or whatever. So I think that one's out. A lot of people think that they're like changelings, which is a type of fairy. And I believe it's a type of fairy that like switches like your child out, like they try to switch with your kid. And then you have to try to figure out like, oh, that's not my kid. A lot of people think that like they're ghouls, which is like, I guess like a type of changeling. Or people just say they're pranksters, punk teenagers with contacts. And then my favorite, of course, is aliens. Because why are they so weird? It's almost like they don't understand how humans work. The way that they need, you know, permission to enter, just the way that they talk, the way that they act, their mannerisms. But the thing that gets me the most is like what sets us off. Is like they're definitely, it's weird to say this because they're kids, but it's almost like they're definitely like a type of predator. And so our fight or flight mechanism goes off to try to save our own save our own butts. And it's just strange that a child would set that off in so many adults. And it's always that situation. It's always like, you know, military guys, like somehow they walk up to like military base and like knock on the door of guys that are on the military base, like full on like hardened veterans that have just come home from war. And these kids are setting off that internal alarm that they know that they need to fight. That's really strange, right? So, and then with the husband, from the lady in Vermont, like how did he have such far advanced skin cancer? And it was a type that you would have to be exposed to radiation. Like that to me seems kind of like alien-y. And oh, she also did say that her husband worked as like, he had an office job for many years. So he didn't have a lot of exposure to the sun where he would be getting, you know, exposure to be getting skin cancer of any kind, let alone something that gives him a lot of radiation. So, she again attributed that to that visit of the kids, and she just thinks it's so weird that she can't get that visit out of their mind. And I think it's like, what if they don't necessarily need to come inside? What if them setting off that fear or that alarm, you know, like kind of gives them like an energy that they can feed off of, or you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, that they can like, okay, that's good enough, I can go. And a lot of people report that whenever they think about those children, they get that same feeling. Like, what if that's like kind of like an extended release type of thing? Like, what if they can just do that now because, or like they get that energy from those people even if they're not around them because they have that connection in some way. Like, that's, I don't know, that's kind of cool. Maybe I just made that up. I don't know. But I just think that they're probably closer to like an alien type situation or something that's not exactly human. People think that they are like ghosts of like children that have been murdered and like super sad stuff like that. I don't want to think of things like that, or it's, you know, like, I don't think it's that like at all, but that could just be me. What do you think they are? what have you heard about them? I would love to know. But I do want to tell you a funny thing that's been happening to me ever since I started looking into these guys. So, my last story time was about the, look how pretty that is. Whatever, it's the Hocus Pocus Dost Thou Comprehend? And it's gorgeous. And it goes on like butter with just the fingertip. Anyways, so when I was doing the research for my Diet 12 pass, I'll link that up here so you guys can see that story time. That's an interesting case. Anyway, so when I was looking into that, or just finishing, I finished that research, before I started filming, I started looking into and like researching more about the Black-Eyed Kids because I heard a story about it and I was like, wow, that's really interesting. And then I'd kind of heard about them before from a few different shows. They were mentioned, that's not working. They were mentioned on an episode of like Ancient Aliens once, so I kind of looked into them there. There's actually a movie. I want to say it's called Let Me In. There was an older movie, a newer movie that they remade called Let Me In or something like that. And then there was one, a Hulu original. Oh man, that's really creepy. What is it called? I want to say it's called When They Come. I'll make sure to put the correct name up here. I'll look it up. But it is a Hulu original. And it's freaking scary. Oh my gosh, it's pretty good. I'm probably going to watch it tonight now. Okay, anyways, we just need to get through this fast. Okay, so I was researching the Black-Eyed Kids before I started filming my Diet 12 pass, right? And can you hear my monkeys upstairs? When I started listening to them, like some of the podcasts I was listening to, a couple of the girls were like, yeah, this is the second time I've done my research because I saved it and I went back to go come in and record or whatever you do for a podcast, and it was gone. It was just gone. All the work I did, it was just gone. And so she had to do it like several times. And then, but again, a few of the podcasts were like, okay, we've tried to record this twice, but the audio got messed up. So this is the second time we're doing it, or this is the third time we're doing it. Okay, if this doesn't work this time, we're just gonna scrap it because we're so frustrated. And then they're like, oh, this weird thing happened today. Like, one of them was just like, yeah, out of nowhere, a bird got trapped in my house. And like, creepy stuff like that, right? And they said they felt like it had something to do with just even researching the Black-Eyed Kids. Like, it's super weird. Those freaking Becks. And, so, what was going on with me? Well, what's funny, okay, really fast. Because, you know, like the orbs and the Diet 12 pass or whatever, if you didn't watch it, people thought they saw UFOs. So that was so stuck on my head that well, okay, so I think I should start with like, okay, so I'll start with car drive. So me and my husband were driving to work. We work about an hour away. And, so when we were driving to work, it's really dark and like early in the morning. And I was just thinking a lot about the Diet 12 pass story and all of that. And my husband's like, whoa, look at that. And I instantly was like looking at the sky for a UFO, but there was like a giant field fire. It was like huge, like the entire like whole side of the mountain or like countryside right here was like glowing. And I'm like looking in the sky for a UFO. So dumb. But anyways, so after I started researching that, when I was editing my Diet 12 pass, I had to redo it several times. I had to like re-upload it because it was not working, and I haven't had that problem for so long. So that was really strange. And then I went to bed that night and I had a dream that I don't know if you ever have those dreams where like there's a spider or something in your dream and it crawls on you. So like you end up actually like you actually in real life, not in your dream, hit yourself and it's like, oh, I hit myself because you thought the spider was on you and you were like kind of waking up like that. Okay. So it was like that type of dream and I was asleep in my bed, no problem. Vaughn was sleeping next to me. My husband was in his spot. And in my dream, I was looking at the ceiling and there was like red polka dots almost. And I love polka dots that started forming on the ceiling. And then instantly in my dream, I knew like, oh, those are blood spots that are like seeping through. Really gross. And I'm so sorry. So I was just like, oh, gross, it's blood. And then the blood spots are like sprouting out legs and they became spiders that just fell down and started crawling all over me. So in my dream, I like ran away from the spiders, but in real life, I was running in my sleep and I like, here's the wall and here's my door, okay? And my door is wide open and I ran into the wall right before I was like leaving the room. So like going out. And if I had not hit the wall, I would have went running straight down my hallway and my basement door was open. So I'd ran straight down the stairs and probably died. So creepy. Thank God I hit the wall, even though I messed up my knee and my foot. And my husband said he just remembers hearing me scream, no! And then boom, 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 me running out. And then bam, oh, ow, ow, that hurt. And I said, oh, ow, ow, my knee and my foot. And then that's what woke me up, was hitting the wall. And my husband's like, what are you doing? And I told him like, I hurt myself. I said, I hurt myself. And he was just like, but what are you doing? And I was just like, I don't know. He's just like, I think you're sleepwalking. And that, for some reason, him accusing me of sleepwalking, like, how dare you accuse me of sleepwalking, made me so upset. I was just like, I am not sleepwalking. And he's just like, okay, well, what are you doing? And I was just like, I think I was asleep. And then I just came back in the room and like went to bed. So that's what happened to me that day. And then I think the next morning is when we were on our way to work and I was like looking for the UFO. And then around that time at work, and I took a little like video and a picture of this part so I can describe it, but I'm not the best at describing things, as you can tell. So I build doors on a machine that clamps my doors together, right? So I do 5 doors at a time and it rotates my doors in a big circle. So I have panels I put in my doors and a cart that holds my panels next to my machine as it rotates, right? So out of nowhere, like 5 panels flew off of the cart and hit my leg, and then they like scraped against like the floor and I had to go and get them fixed, but I have no idea how or why or what happened, or like I don't know how those panels flew off the cart. I've never had that happen to me before. It hasn't happened since. I have no idea how those panels flew off. They flew off the thing, right? But it's like the weirdest stuff keeps happening, like little weird things like that. And the things that I've heard or read about it on the internet is like, again, like if you look into these little, not bad words or anything, like I'm getting so creeped out. Okay, I'm creeping myself out. I gotta hurry and finish this story for you guys. Okay, so really creepy. you know, when I was like editing my, like where I edit my videos, like it's by my back door and I have a little dog door. And I was even thinking like, it'd be so creepy if those kids came up to knock on my door, but they started whispering through my dog door. And right as I started thinking that, I scooted my chair back and the like leg of the chair fell in the floor vent, and I like tipped back and I thought they were pulling me out my dog door. I'm telling you, these little things have creeped me out, or I've creeped myself out so bad about them. I'm not sure. What's the matter? You're so sad? Oh, you want to play the game?
Yeah.
Okay, you can play the game.
John, a Prince game.
Okay.
Let's come on, you again.
You already told Kimari?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll tell him.
Come on.
Okay. Okay, sorry about that. I had to take care of my baby. So, yeah, the Blackeyed kids are, they're pretty freaking scary. They have me super creeped out. And again, I saw online, like, they say if the more you look into them, they become more aware of you and stuff like that. And then I'm just like, am I creeping myself out, or are they freaking haunting me? I can't tell, but I'm pretty sure they're haunting me. I don't creep myself out or anything. There was something outside my window, but it was just my puppy. So that's, but she was there. I swear I was hearing something. It wasn't a Blackeyed kid though. Yeah, so if you have these kids coming up to your car window or your door, do not let them in. Don't even talk to them. If you have strange kids come up to your door at all, don't talk to them. It's not your problem. Not your circus, not your monkeys, right? So yeah, but thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. If you want to look into Blackeyed kids, don't say I didn't warn you. Hopefully my research was good enough for you. If it's just piquing your interest, I'm telling you, this is really freaking interesting stuff. And there are so many stories out there that you can read. Apparently there is like an ancient statue that they say was supposed to be because, or like has something to do with the Blackeyed kids. I'll try to find the name of it, but I looked into it. It doesn't look anything like really any big, significant big deal. So just so you know, there's something that like, you know, from ancient times that people, but I feel like that's just people like grasping at straws to make it seem like this is not just like a Slender Man type of thing or anything like that. I don't know, silly things like that. But there are a lot of really interesting stories. There's Ring cameras, stories of them. It's just creepy stuff. So anyways, thank you so much for being here. If you did like today's story, please make sure to give it a big thumbs up. Comment down below other creepy stuff that you guys are interested in, you know, paranormal, unexplained things, UFO stuff. I love that stuff. Yeah, and I'll look into it. We can talk about it. I'll have fun. I hope you like the look I came up with. I do have new hair. I love the blue. Yeah, so I hope you guys had a great Christmas, New Year's, Halloween, Thanksgiving, all of that. I plan on recording more consistently again and getting back to it. Yeah, but thanks so much for being subscribed. If you haven't done so already, make sure you click that subscribe button. And yeah, thank you so much for being here, you guys. Love your guts. Bye-bye.